Everybody come in. There's a few people standing out in the parking lot, so a couple of them heathens out there. Maybe they'll come on. Look, see, there's one right there. We're so glad you'd be with us this morning for week 4 of Trauma Reboot. Thank you for being here. Thank you for reaching out during the week. Those of you who have shared an interest in different things, or maybe just shared how it's helping you. We appreciate that, and we're glad to see you here. So last week we asked you to consider a few questions and to think about a few things. And one of the questions we asked was, what if by attending this course you began the process of bringing purpose to your pain? JB spoke a lot about that last week, bringing purpose to your pain. Could there be a new purpose to your life, basically from the possibility of something that you've been through, some painful experiences? And we're going to continue today to build on these things and to build on these questions. But let's review week 3 first. I want to review that and make sure everybody's got what they need. Trauma wounds the mind. Make sure you've got those. Trauma wounds the body. And trauma wounds the soul. So I want to make sure you got those 3 things there in your mind. I do care that they're in your book, but primarily in your mind. We have to look beyond the mental and physical. I almost said JB. I almost went JB on you. You got to look past those wounds, because trauma wounds us in a place that medicine and surgery can't help us, can't touch us. So although we feel physically hurt and we feel mentally hurt and emotionally hurt, we have to look past that. Wouldn't it be amazing if every traumatic situation, if every painful experience immediately resulted in personal growth? Right? Wouldn't it be amazing? How great would it be to step back right after a terrible season in our life and just say, man, I'm so grateful for that time of trial. I'm so glad that happened to me. Because you know what? I just already see how it made me better. And I'm more of a complete person right now. Sometimes it works that way. Very rarely. Most of the time it is possible, but it don't usually happen that way. For most of us, that journey to discovering the purpose in our pain is going to be this long, winding road with ups and downs and bumps and a whole bunch of unanswered questions along the way that we're going to have to deal with. Pain doesn't naturally decompose. Pain will not naturally decompose into purpose. If we're trying to find purpose in our pain, we can't just let the pain sit there and pile up, because it won't decompose. It just piles up. That's what it does. It don't just go away. Y'all have all, my students are the worst at this, and they probably learned it from me, but y'all know that person when they go to the trash can in the kitchen and it's full, and they got this can in their hand and they're like, either they try to set it just right. Happens at the fire station every day, don't it? They take that can, they try to set it just right so the trash can's clearly full, or they'll just squish it down, right? They'll squish it down a little more just to create a little more room for their garbage. Now, I want you to take that physical illustration of a garbage can being full and tie it to your emotional garbage that is also full at times. What's crazy, though, is sometimes we'll try to push that trash can down with our hand, but it's so full that it bounces right back, right? And so we get crazy, right? We throw our foot in there and start trying to stomp it down, when all we got to do is change the trash bag. My wife will testify, hallelujah. I'm good at taking the trash out, but I never remember to put a bag in the can. I always forget that part. I assumed that I'm done because I took the trash bag out. But apparently you got to put a new bag in there. I don't know. Probably some newfound way of doing things, but we're trying to make more space. And you can take that trash can and you can push it down. You can stomp it down. You can wiggle it. You can let all the air out. All those things we do to make more room in the trash bag. But eventually it's going to get full. And eventually that trash can is going to overflow. No matter how much force we apply, no matter how hard we try to stuff it down in there, the lid just won't stay closed, right? Am I talking to anybody this morning? Because I ain't talking about trash. I'm talking about trauma and pain. I'm talking about hurt this morning. Eventually it just starts spilling out on the floor. It just starts spilling out. And maybe that's how you've been treating your trauma. Maybe you've been just pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down until you just can't simply hold any more pain. You just can't deal with it. Have you ever been in a situation where a friend needed to talk to you, like they needed to vent or they needed to lean on you, and you're just like, I just can't today, I'm sorry. I've got enough of my own junk going on, I just can't hear it today. That's a bad spot to be in when we can't be there for others. But I've been there. I'm sure you have too. Comes a point where the trash can that we store our trauma and pain in just can't hold anything else. And the problem is once that trash can can't hold anymore, it starts spilling out. And it starts spilling out into the other people in your life. And other folks who had nothing to do with your trauma, they start having to deal with your trash as well. And it sabotages your relationships, it lowers your quality of life, and it forces you to have to deal with it. It forces you to have to figure it out. And to one degree or another, everybody in here, the most put together person, I don't know who it is because it sure ain't me, but the most put together person in here still has to stomp trash down sometimes. Still have to push it down sometimes. But eventually it get too full and starts spilling out. So on page 37, I want to ask you this question, and then I want you to write your response in page 37 there. But in what ways has trash been spilling out in your life? Just you personally. Write it in your book. Remember, guys, these are your books. We're not taking them up after class. We're not looking at them. You share what you want to share, but we do want you to write it down in your book. In what ways is trash spilling out of your life? Is it stuff from 20 years ago? Is it stuff from 2 days ago? Is it death? Is it adultery? Is it addiction? Is it finances? What trash is spilling out of your life? While you write that down there, also on page 37, we see some talk here about recycling, and we're going to get into that in just a second, but I'm going to give you a minute to write your answers down. In what ways is trash spilling out of your life? If anybody can say, my can's empty, it's a brand new bag in it, I'd love to meet you. I'd love to meet you. I ain't got no trash in my bag. That's called pride. Trust me, I know. Page 37, it says recycling is the process of converting waste into reusable material. Recycling. It's the process of turning waste into reusable material. If left to its natural processes, trauma will serve no purpose. If we just take our pain at face value and it is what it is, take the things we've been through, then it serves no purpose. Because trauma is harm caused for harm's sake. It's evil for evil. It's bad for bad. There's no redemption of negative life experiences. So in other words, also you'll see there on page 37, we live through them and then live with them. End of story. We live through them and then live with them. But what if that trauma could be recycled? What if it could be repurposed? What if all that waste and all that junk and all that trash and all that garbage could be converted into something useful? You say, I'm not really getting that. But what would it look like? How would it change the way we think about our trauma? How would it change the way we feel about our trauma? In the world today, trash is recycled in thousands of ways. All sorts of trash, bottles and paper and glass and plastic, and it's all recycled into all these different ways. But it's just not happening with physical things because, like I said, I've heard from some of you this week, either through my wife or directly to me or through JB, and you've got some stuff being recycled in the last 3 weeks too in this class, and we're thankful for that. And you say, well, I hadn't really felt that yet. Well, your recycling story is not unattainable. These people that are starting to feel healing already, are starting to see things already, they're everyday people sitting right beside you in this class who with God's help, they're taking the trash from their past trauma and they're repurposing it, they're recycling it for something beautiful, and you can do the same. Page 38. There's a productive way to deal with trauma. It's the truth. There's a productive way to deal with trauma, a process in which pain has purpose and there is hope after trauma. There's a productive way to deal with trauma, a process in which pain has a purpose and there's hope after the trauma. And we know it works because JB and I have taught reboot to first responders for 3 years now, and we see the lives changing. We see first responders who are different than they were before they took the course. We know this process where pain has a purpose and there's hope after trauma. We know it works. And we call this process the healing equation. The healing equation. The healing equation says that first we need to find safety. And then as we start to feel safe, we need to seek out something called stability. Who would love to have stability in your life? Who would love to have safety, but who would love to have stability? And once you found stability, we need support. We need safety, we need stability and support, and they're essential elements that if we add all those together over time, it will lead to healing. You can see this on page 38 in your book. Some of you are already doing it, but safety plus stability plus support over time equals healing. Now, over the next several weeks, we're going to help each other break those patterns that I talked about 2 weeks ago. We're going to break those patterns of denying and crying and numbing and running. We're going to work on breaking those patterns. Instead of denying, we're going to take personal responsibility for our healing. We spent way too long in our pity party blaming somebody else for what we're dealing with instead of taking ownership and saying, I'm going to heal from this for me. We're going to quit denying it. We're going to take responsibility. Instead of crying, we're going to grieve well. We're going to forgive others, and we're going to let go of our shame. And instead of numbing, we're going to feel and heal the roots of our trauma. Instead of running, let's establish our identity in truth. This truth. Let's establish our identity in truth. In the absolute truth, so that we can face whatever lies ahead. First, we need to talk about safety, though. Safety, stability, and support over time equals healing. So let's focus on finding safety. When we say safety, a whole lot of things come to mind. Safety means different things to different people. Some people may be thinking about physical safety, like I want to feel safe from somebody hurting me. Some people need mental safety, safety in their mind, or emotional safety. So let's take a deeper look at this word safety and this definition here of safety. Look at page 39 in your books. What are some synonyms for the word safety to you? What are some synonyms to the word safety? How would you describe being safe? Write those words down there on page 39. Maybe it's secure, sheltered, protected, defended. Synonyms. Your synonyms are different than your neighbor's synonyms. Right after that, I want you to describe some antonyms, or the opposite of feeling safe. Insecure, at risk, afraid, unprotected. Write down your synonyms and antonyms to the word safety. I've shared this with my kids. When I say my kids, for those of y'all who don't know me, I'm talking about my Emerge students who trash this room after y'all leave every Sunday morning and Wednesday night. Well, that's after the ladies trash it on Tuesday nights. I'm just saying. Yeah, wild parties and stuff. But I tell my kids this in Emerge. As a law enforcement officer, I don't feel safe very often. I always feel at risk. We go sit down somewhere, and if there's a crowd, but we had to sit at the high top at Waffle House the other night. We went after something, and there was a lot of people in there. And we had to sit at that high top bar, right beside the doggone cash register. And so the whole night I'm like this because there's people behind me. And my wife knows me well enough to say it's a family and kids, and that calms me down a little bit. Sometimes we go to Walmart and we get in the self-checkout line, and I won't go there this morning, but we get there and I'll just walk off, and they're like, man, that's the rudest husband ever. Won't even help his wife with the groceries. And you can find me with my back against the wall watching every register, just watching my wife do her thing. Because I'm always on some alert level because of things I've been through, because of people who have tried to hurt me, because of different situations. But the only time that I can recognize in my life that I feel safe, it's not at the beach. I'm a mess there. It's not on vacation. I'm a mess there. But I got my chair at home where I sit. And if I'm sitting in that chair with my little blankie over me, and my wife's right beside me, and Bryce is right here, then I'm safe. That's where I feel safe. That's about it. Just open it up to you. That's about it. Anywhere else, I feel like I have to be on high alert. Come to church, have to wear an earpiece on my radio, or an earpiece in my ear. So do some of these other guys who do this every single day for their life. In their job, they do it here too. Why? Because we want to keep people safe in a place that may not be safe at times. That's the one place I feel safe. And so you may be in here today like, what if I'm not safe? I'm not talking about in this room. I'm talking about your situation. Maybe somebody's not physically trying to hurt you at the moment, but safety is broader than that. Safety is bigger than that. It's about reliability. It's about trust and optimism. Safe people feel a sense of security. I've seen Melissa, if Bulls after church, I've seen this. Melissa is his baby girl. And Melissa will go up, if Daddy and Mama walk up to somebody, I've seen this. And Melissa don't know that person, Melissa will get real close to Bull's leg. And if she's scared, she might even wrap her arms around his leg. Hold on. When we're scared, we need to go to Daddy. We need to huddle up to Daddy. I ain't in the book, JB, sorry. When we're scared, we need to huddle up to Daddy. That's a safe place. That's where the security's at. That's where we can find that. Safety is rooted in grace, acceptance, and compassion. Because you know what Daddy does when Melissa gets up close? He puts that hand on that shoulder. And buddy, that just makes it all better, don't it? Makes it all better. Safety has to be present in here. If this course is going to help anybody, we have to feel safe with sharing our thoughts and our emotions. I just shared something with you guys, and both people that's watching this morning, and you know, I don't share that stuff often. Safety is more than a feeling. Safety is a confidence. It's an assuredness that no matter what happens in here, let's talk about this class for a minute, no matter what we share with each other, no matter how shocking or tragic our story may be, no matter how bad we've been through something, that we won't stop loving each other and that we got each other's backs. Have you had somebody in your life that you had a good opportunity to stop loving them? Like, I've got good reason to not love this person. I've got good reason to not have this person's back, and you chose to do it anyway. Man, that's a good feeling. Man, that's a good feeling. Got to have each other's back. When we feel safe, we feel confident and protected. We feel like things are going to be okay. People who are safe don't live in fear. They don't wake up in the middle of the night with this sense of doom. They don't wake up in the middle of the night feeling all these terrible thoughts. Why? Because they feel safe. And they feel all those safe synonyms you just wrote down in your book. But somebody in here may not be feeling safe and secure. Somebody may not be feeling all this optimism right now. Instead of feeling peace, we have this never-ending alarm going off in our head. We have this thing just blowing up inside of us all the time that something bad's about to happen, something terrible's going down. We wake up with this hurt in our stomach, and we're just waiting on bad news to come because we know it's coming. Some of us have been both places in our life, right, at different times. Somebody may not even feel, and this is kind of stopping for a second, but somebody may not even feel physically safe in their own home. Somebody may be threatening to harm us or treat us in a bad way, and that's not something to be embarrassed about or think you have to go through alone. If that's where you are, I want you to let us know. Let me know, please, because I want to help you. Let JB know. He wants to help you. Let our wives know. We want to help you. That nobody should have to live in their own home in fear. Can you remember what your life was like before your current trauma? We can remember that. It may be fading. But can we remember what life was like before that? Some of us can't recall ever feeling safe. Some of us can't recall ever feeling that security in their life. Maybe you grew up thinking, I got a completely normal life, only to realize later that, man, my childhood life was a mess. That was not fun. Here's a question for you. You'll see it on page 39. On a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 means I live in constant fear and 10 means I'm not afraid of anything, how safe do you feel right now? How safe do you feel right now? I'm not talking about right this second, but I'm talking about right now in this season of life. How safe do you feel? And circle that answer. Circle where you are. And then I want to ask you this, what would it take to raise that to a 9 or a 10? Wherever you landed, what would it take to raise that to a 9 or a 10? Maslow's hierarchy says that safety and shelter are two essentials, basic needs of life, meaning that we can't go without them. Without safety, everything else we cover in this course would be built up on a faulty foundation. It would be built in a bad way. Safety has to be established. So think about it like this. Think about an earthquake. If we're all in this room right now and an earthquake happens, I know we don't have many bad earthquakes in LaGrange, but just in case it did, think about that earthquake happening. What do? Lights start shaking, stuff starts falling. What do? Help me. Get down, get out, find safety, right? You're trying to find safety. You leave behind everything that's in here. I don't care if y'all see my book. I don't want this roof fall on me. You go and you try to find safety. There's no time for anything but to find a safe place while the earthquake's happen. Now imagine if I were to start, everything's shaking. I'm good at earthquakes because we do it every year in the play, but everything's shaking and everything's moving and everything's trembling, falling and all this stuff, and I start trying to assess the damage right there in the middle of it. I'm like, oh, don't let the TV fall. I should have mounted it better. Or let me go get some sheetrock mud and try to fix this, and everything's still shaking and moving. Or let me get a broom and start sweeping up stuff right in the middle of the earthquake. You'd think I lost my mind, right? If I just started trying to do that while everything's happening, you would think that I had lost my mind because I'm trying to fully assess and actually begin repairing something that's still going on. And you can't do that in an earthquake. That's not how it works. It's a waste of your effort. It's only after we found safety and after the earthquake has ended that we can deal with the aftermath. Because after the earthquake ends, we can assess the damage. We can come up with a plan. We can start asking people to help us, and we can start rebuilding. But no sooner than that. You can't do that while the damage is still happening. And maybe that's what's brought you here today. Maybe the earthquake in your life just ended, and you're ready to walk into the wreckage and start assessing the damage and start seeing what you can do to fix that, start to help that situation. Experts say that in case of an earthquake, there's two things you need to do. You need to get up against a wall and get up under sturdy shelter. You need to find a safe place. You need to move under a sturdy desk or a table, or I wouldn't do that one because I sit on it sometimes and it's kind of sway back, but find you something strong. Push it up against a wall and get up under it. So I want you to think about that. You get up under something and you push it up against a wall. You tuck your head down. You hold yourself together as long as you have to. Now, we're not talking about a physical earthquake no more than we were talking about a real trash can earlier. But where can safety be found? On page 40, the first place we can find safety is in community. Very first place we can find safety, on page 40 in your books, first place you find safety in community. I want you to think of community as the walls in the earthquake illustration. Community is the walls. Walls provide us something to lean against during an earthquake. A wall gives us something to lean on. They surround us, they protect us. We read that a city that's protected, or a city with walls is a protected city. Think about our community as the walls. Community provides the walls of mental, emotional, spiritual support we need. There's some data that shows that one of the leading indicators of long-term mental health healing is people who have a participating, loving, trusting relationship with community. We're a community in here right now. We are community right here where we are. Anybody who's been to war will tell you this, that I'll go through hell on earth with my soldiers with me. I don't want to do it by myself. I don't want to do it by myself. And I think we can go through this reboot course having somebody here with us, and we don't have to go through it by ourselves. We don't have to deal with it by ourselves. Finding safety begins with finding safe people. One way you know somebody's not a safe person is if you tell them something and it's on Facebook 2 hours later. Well, I just want you to pray for Bull. He's just going through. You're spreading gossip, right? There's ways to determine safe people in your life. One way is this: if they'll say it about them to you, they'll say it about you to them. Okay? Find safe people in your life. What are some characteristics of safe people? On page 40, I want you to list some characteristics, some traits of somebody you would consider a safe person. Page 40, list some characteristics of what a safe person, safe people would be to you. What are some characteristics of somebody who would be a safe person to you? Safe people don't lead with advice. They don't lead with recommendations. They don't lead with, well, you need to do this. That's what Job's friends did to him, right? That's not how safe people lead. Safe people lead with grace and compassion. I've been guilty a whole bunch of times of my wife sharing feelings with me about a situation at work or a situation with friends or family, just something going on, and I'm like spitting right back at her. She's like, I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to listen. Y'all wives have said that to your husband too, right? I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to listen. And I've been terrible at that in the past. We just need to listen with grace and compassion, not looking for an answer. Somebody who leads you good or leads you right as a safe person will lead with grace and compassion. Safe people allow you to be vulnerable, and they also feel like they can be vulnerable to you. They ask you how you're doing, and they stick around to hear the answer. Guilty. We'll pass people in, I will. I'll pass people in this foyer this morning. Hey, how you doing? And just keep walking. Like, why'd you even ask? You don't care. You just kept walking. I got convicted of that a long time ago, and now I don't care if it's the guy at Home Depot. I'll say, how you doing? And I'll just stand there and look at him. Like, I want you to tell me. I want to know. You know? Man, we're so guilty of those kind of things. We need somebody that'll stick around for the answer when they ask how you doing. Safe people aren't necessarily counselors. They're not necessarily reboot teachers. They're not pastors necessarily. Safe people are normal, everyday people who love you and care about you. And everybody in here should have somebody like that. And if you don't, I love you. I care about you. And I ain't just saying that. I do. Or I wouldn't be up here. He wouldn't be up here. We all need those safe people in our life. When our bodies are in that earthquake mode, that fight or flight situation there, we're not able to process everything as it's happening to us. We get tunnel vision on what's going on, and we got to fix this when all this other stuff's going on around us. Safe people help us to see things from other vantage points. You ever been ready to just blast off on somebody about something they did to you, and you go talk to a buddy about it and they steer you another direction? Help calm you down? It's because they see it from a different standpoint than you do. Our default trauma response will try to make us go to this short-sighted, life-changing decision for a long-term problem that we could fix if we let the community of safe people come in and help us. Safe people are hard to find though, right? Yeah. Safe people are hard to find. You know why? Because trauma will change the way we view other people. I said trauma will change the way we view other people. It'll make you not trust anybody. It'll make you question. It'll make women not trust any man. It'll make men not trust any woman. It'll make relationships hard to find. It'll make church the enemy. Trauma will do that to you. Trauma can make the most loyal, optimistic person suspicious of the people around them. Right? It can just change us that way. Look at page 40 again. I want you to answer these two questions. Some of you have done it already, but how have your experiences changed the way you view other people? How have your experiences changed the way you view other people? And then, are you more or less trusting than you were a few years ago? Answer those questions if you haven't already. Some of you have. That's okay. Our hope is that through this course that we'll help you to reinstate some of that trust and restore some of that trust. We hope that the people that are here with you today, maybe some people you have in your life, will become that wall that you can lean on, that wall that you can hide under. You know, we've said this before, but Reboot's not about the material we teach. It's about the community that's built from it. It's about the community that's built from the course. And take advantage of that stuff. So even the most supportive, the biggest community ever, I just told you communities first and all that's great, but it may not be enough. It's not going to be enough. During an earthquake, we need that wall, but we also need that shelter. We also need something over us. We also need that. In the context of trauma, our shelter has to be able to bear the weight of the world that's caving in around us. And I'm sorry, but I can't bear the weight of everything you've been through, not by myself. Because I can't bear the weight of everything I've been through by myself. I sure can't bear the weight of everything you've been through by yourself. That's why we need this wall for community. We need this wall for support. But we need that shelter. That shelter has to be big enough that it can completely shelter us mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. It has to be able to shelter us. Where can we find that shelter? Page 41 in your book. The second place we can find safety is there's safety in God. And don't take me for what God says. The Bible says in Psalm chapter 27, verse 5, "For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion, in the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me, and he shall set me upon a rock." Shelter, hide me. That's what shelter does. And Psalm 46, verse 1 through 4 says, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed, the mountains be carried in the midst of the sea, the waters thereof roar and be troubled, the mountains shake, the swelling thereof. There is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacles of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, she shall not be moved. God shall help her." Isn't it right? Early. Earthquake. How would you describe something that's sturdy? I want you to talk back to me. Don't write it down. How would you describe something that's sturdy? Secure? Okay. Huh? Solid? Yeah. Strong? When me and Amber go to weddings, they have these little pretty white chairs you sit in at a wedding. I have to kind of evaluate that thing for a minute. Like, I'll look down, and I'll look back at that chair. Brian and Andrea's was the worst because it was outside and the ground was sinking up. You kind of look at that thing, Larry's going to kill me. You kind of look at that thing and you're like, yeah, I think so. Maybe. You know what I'm saying. Won't you help me out? They're like, yeah, I know. I think that would be all right. Man, them rental chairs are cheap, boy. And then they want you to go sit down and eat after the wedding. Like, that's why I can't sit down. When we're looking for something sturdy, we want to know that I can just walk up and flop down in it and be just fine. Didn't a single one of y'all look under these chairs when you got here to make sure the bolts were in right? You just flopped down because you felt safe and you felt secure. There ain't but one place we can find that kind of safety, and that's in God. God is I posted this yesterday because I thought it was so good. God is the most reliable friend you'll ever find. He is the most reliable. He's kind, He's loving, He's discerning, He's patient, He's present, He's powerful, He's perfect. He won't leave you, He won't lie to you, He won't steal from you, He won't hurt you. God is safe. Every other thing I just read, I will do to you. And you will do to me. I will do to my wife, and my wife will do to me. My daddy will do it to me, and I'll do it to him. God won't do these things to you. Because God is safe. The one place we can find sturdy, strong, solid shelter is in Him. Maybe you're familiar with the Serenity Prayer. It says, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom to know the difference. There's freedom and safety when we recognize our limitations. Everybody has limitations, right? We all have different limitations. When we recognize where our power ends and where God's power begins, we're doing something good. Because God has big shoulders. God can handle the stuff if we let Him handle it. Just like that shelter from an earthquake. He can support the weight of the world crashing down on us. We can find peace right in the middle of that thing shaking. Because we know this shelter ain't going to let me down. This shelter is not going to hurt me. And that's important because over the next several weeks, JB and I are going to be talking about some of these challenging topics and that difficult work of healing our wounded roots. And it all starts with safety. Next week, we're going to learn how to manage big emotions. Because after that, there's some really important lessons ahead of that. Listen, you have a strong community around you. And you have a strong shelter over you. We need to trust in that. We need to believe in that. And together, we'll get through this 1 week at a time. 1 week at a time. I do this in middle school too, but everybody do this right here. Everybody do this. Y'all play along. What's that called? No, it's not called a heartbeat. It's called purpose. And if your heart's still doing that, it's called purpose. And you have a purpose. Because when it stops and you can't feel that, your purpose is served. But until then, you have a purpose. And God will see you through that purpose. Let's pray. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for your word. God, thank you for Trauma Reboot and the people who created this study. And God, most importantly, for your word that we read today where we can find absolute truth. God, I pray you'll help us this week to find those safe people, God, to lean on those safe people. God, but most importantly, to find that safe shelter, which is you. God, to put our trust in you just like we do these chairs or just like we do anything else physically, God. Help us to put our spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical trust in you and you alone. And God, we love you and thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.